He is 100% worth it.
He takes it to another level. Oh my God, I just fell in love with it.
Thanks so much, Jay.
Blew my mind. And it worked. I wanted to buy my thing.
Jay is, I would say, the Yoda of sales calls, man.
Just talking to Jay, he was so good at just taking what it is, seeing the opportunity and the value and the real reason we are making it.
Talk to Jay because he got it. He can definitely help you out.
Talk to Jay. You're going to get a lot. You're going to gain a lot.
I would absolutely recommend him for any position that you have.
Jay's definitely the guy.
Give him the chance, give him the opportunity. You won't regret it.
He's good at what he does, so I highly recommend him, and I would book him before he is fully booked out.
Welcome back to the Sales Ninja Show podcast, where we cut through the noise, ditch outdated sales tactics, and show you how to close deals with confidence, strategy, and integrity. Hi, my name is Jay Lee, founder of Sales Ninja. As a former banker, former introvert, former pastor, and high-ticket Sales Ninja seven-figure closer, I now help businesses grow and scale without the pushy tactics. And that's the heart of the reverse glass selling method, a kingdom-driven approach built on trust, service, and true connection. My mission is to help over 1 million people break the cycle of generational poverty so they can sell more to give more. In part one, we had the privilege of diving into the inspiring journey of Russ Ruffino, founder of Clients on Demand, and how he went from being a bartender to building a $100 million business. We heard about his incredible comeback story, the lessons he learned, and how love and faith have played pivotal roles in his success. But the journey doesn't stop there. In part two, we're diving even deeper. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the future of high-ticket coaching with Russ, uncovering the trends and strategies that will shape the industry in the coming years. In fact, we'll explore Russ's entrepreneurial journey today, the mindset shifts needed to scale businesses, and how business-driven entrepreneurship is at the heart of his mission. We'll also tackle some tough challenges and leadership principles, and of course, we'll round things out with some fun and insightful lightning round questions. So grab your notebooks, get comfortable, and let's dive into part two of our conversation with Russ Ruffino. Welcome back, Russ. How you doing, brother?
What's up, man? What an intro.
I'm always your hype man,
Yeah.
Always elevating the people that are on the show. So happy to have you back here. How have you been since we've been on the last podcast?
Everything's good, man. Business is cranking, and when we're doing our thing.
Awesome. So we dove into a lot of amazing questions in the last one, and I thought, man, we just ran out of time, so we have to do a part two. So thank you for your precious time. And I want to jump into a couple of questions on your personal journey and even your entrepreneurial spirit. Is that okay?
Yeah, dive in. Let's go.
Okay, cool. So, when a lot of people that I talk to and clients that I bring on they go through like this self-doubt. A lot of people lack the confidence. They don't know what their, offer is. And even if they have a really good offer, they lack the confidence. So I find that, all of us at some point face this self-doubt. Was there a specific moment or experience that pushed you to believe in your own ability as an entrepreneur? Maybe you were like last pick on the soccer team, or maybe people overlooked you in school as a someone on the play. What was your moment where you experienced this breakthrough?
For me, it really was just pure desperation that brought me into this. When I was bartending, and this is 15 years ago, I was bartending, I turned 30, and I vowed to myself that I was not going to become a 40-year-old bartender. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're like a mixologist and you love making drinks and it's your thing, but it didn't light me up. But for me, it was just like a job. So I was like, look, I have to dive into this world of online entrepreneurship, even though I have no business doing it, no marketing background, nothing. For me, it was just like, I have to find a way to make this work. And very quickly, what was cool, Jay, is I realized that like I could just do it. I sat down to write sales copy and it just flowed and it was really good. And I understood marketing and I understood how to connect with people. And I just had like an intuitive understanding of sort of the things that matter, like empathy, like being able to put yourself into your client's shoes. And that's really the key to connecting with people and creating messaging that is persuasive. And I could just do that. I think some of that had to do with my background in acting. But yeah, I just dove in, was very pleasantly surprised that I could just do it, and then continued on that journey and just let it take me where it took me. And by the time I got into high ticket coaching, I didn't know that people would spend a high ticket price for coaching, but I suspected that they would, because I could see the difference that I was making in the lives of people, even at the low ticket price. So I figured if I was charging them a higher price and I could give them a higher level of service, a VIP level of service, I figured that they would show up more committed and actually do the work. And that's exactly what happened. And so when I made the shift to high ticket, even that I got proof of concept really quickly that was definitely the way to go.
Amazing. We have a question from Peak of Internet. Are you taking questions? Absolutely. If you have any questions for Russ, please put them in the comments below and we will try to address them. So you made an interesting comment earlier, just when you said that, sales copy, creating persuasive messaging. Now, I know you said it in passing, but what I caught on was that, most people are not good at, creating persuasive messaging or creating sales copy that converts. You had a background in acting, you did your reps, but for a lot of people, like, for example, I'm not a great swimmer, right? I didn't really take swimming lessons, and my kids, my daughter's a lifeguard. So swimming for her is no problem. And you just said it kind of like, that's not a big deal. It's not difficult. But for most of us, creating persuasive messaging is difficult. So what are some of the key, sales copy tips that, someone who doesn't have acting experience, someone who is not very good at writing, where there's a formula or a template, how would you teach someone who is starting from scratch, from ground zero, who has no background in that?
The most important skill that you can possibly have is the ability to project yourself into your client's shoes in your imagination. That's the most important thing. You have to, like, let's say you have an offer where you're working with people that are super overweight and you're helping them get in shape or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. You have to be able to close your eyes and project yourself into that person's reality. Like, what does it feel like to wake up in the morning and have that weight on your bones? Or what does it feel like to go to the doctor and the doctor is giving you these warnings like, hey, you got to lose that weight, you got to make it happen. And you just don't even know where to start and you don't even know where to turn. Aching joints, to have the other things, and you really have to get that into your body. So you can't look at it as like, I'm gonna write a sales copy to influence this person who's over here. You have to take that person and you have to step into their reality deeply and fully and imagine what it is like to go through a day. Like, how is that person's problem showing up in their experience every day? What are they doing to overcome it? Why are those things failing? And when you do that, you can write copy that really connects with your audience exactly where they are. So that's the first step, is to start with that empathy, and you have to really go there in your imagination.
Yeah.
And then then you just kind of like describe what you see almost. Like, what's it like to wake up with this problem or that problem? What's it like to wake up every day with a business that's stuck and you can't seem to scale? Whatever that problem is that you solve, you dive into how it actually feels to have that problem and what that person is doing to try to overcome it every single day and why that's not working. And all of that can and should happen in your imagination. You got to train yourself to be able to go there in your imagination, and you can feel what's going on with that person. So then once you've got that basic connection, there's a few core principles that come into play. The first one is you need to attach what you do to a compelling outcome. So you would never say something like, I'm a relationship coach. You would say something like, I help middle-aged professional couples who are on the brink of divorce save their marriage.
Wow.
So now it's connected to a very strong outcome. And that's what captures people's attention. If they want that outcome, they're going to pay attention to that message. Then you describe their problems better than they can. So when we describe our audience's problems better than they can, they automatically assume that we know the answer. So you would use some of that insight that you got when you imagined their day-to-day experience to then describe their day-to-day experience. And when you do that properly, people immediately go, oh my God, this guy gets me. Oh my God, this guy knows what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling every single day. He knows things I haven't even told my wife. He knows things I haven't even told my best friend. So you vividly describe those problems. And then this is where it gets really powerful. You reframe those problems as just being symptoms of a bigger problem that they're not even thinking about, right? So it could be something like this. Let's say it's a marriage offer for guys. Do you wake up every morning 12 inches away from somebody who's supposed to be the love of your life, but you feel like there's miles between you and that gap is getting bigger every day? Do you feel like you're doing all the things? You're bringing home a steady paycheck. You're trying to be supportive, but no matter what you do, you feel like your wife just resents you more and more every day. Do you feel like you're giving her everything that she tells you that she wants, but it doesn't seem to be moving the needle? So if that's what's happening, then I actually have good news, because none of those things are the real problem. The real problem is that you don't know how to interpret what your wife really needs from you. And until you know how to do that, you're going to keep stumbling around in the dark, trying to figure out how to make this marriage work, when really you guys are speaking two different languages. You see what I mean? Where now I've taken these problems and now I'm reframing them as this whole other problem that they're not even thinking about. And then if I can provide the solution to that problem, now what I've done, Jay, is I've created my own economy where every other solution in the marketplace just feels like a Band-Aid, because this is now the thing that really counts. And so if they were thinking about going to marriage counseling, or they were thinking about buying a book about relationship, if that book or whatever doesn't show them how to interpret what their wife really is trying to get from them, then it just becomes a Band-Aid. And so if they accept that premise, then they have to invest in your solution, because your solution is the only thing that's going to get them where they want to go. And then you talk about the old way versus the new way, which is this is the old way of fixing this problem. Here's why it's obsolete. Here's why it doesn't work. Here's my new way and why it avoids all the problems of the old way. And then once you've done that, it's really just a question of telling them where they need to go next.
Wow. I'm done. That was incredible. I'm smiling because of the mastery and how that just rolls off the tip of your tongue, because you do this all day in and day out. So that was incredible. Examples, the real life, live demonstration. I really appreciate that. And that's what sets you apart. I love how you said, having the empathy and have an imagination, because I think a lot of us, when we try to market or, do our coaching programs or try to sell stuff, even with, whether it's AI and content strategy creation, that it becomes like this, here's the offer, here's the price, this is why you should get it, versus like digging deep into like the real problems and the day-to-day activities and the struggles and how they're actually feeling. I think we've lost the art of learning how to get into their shoes and really understand, if they're overweight, they got diabetes, and, they're taking 14 pills a day and they might have to amputate their leg, right? Like there's some real situations that provoke and cause emotion because they're real. So I love the way you do that. I can see why you're good at what you do. So thank you for sharing that.
Thanks.
So let's talk about your first major business setback. I'm sure, as a successful entrepreneur, $100 million CEO, there's been many, but every entrepreneur experiences at least one major setback. What was the hardest early challenge that you faced when you were just starting to grow, and how did you adapt your strategy to keep moving forward?
Oh man, there's one thing I want to talk about, but I don't know if I'm allowed to
just don't mention
names. Allowed to say about it. So all right. So without giving any details,
yeah,
I had a situation where I had to get involved in a lawsuit in the early days of my business. There was someone I didn't know, who I never worked with, basically made a web post about me that I thought was defamatory, and then I had to file a lawsuit. And I think that's all that I'm allowed to say about the nuts and bolts of what happened.
Sure.
But yeah, that was incredibly tough, because when you Googled Russ Ruffino, and this was a time when I wasn't doing any content marketing whatsoever, everything was paid traffic. So when you Googled Russ Ruffino, I think that article was like one of the first things to show up in the search results. And so obviously it was costing us a lot of money. So I it ended up, having to turn it over to my legal team. But man, that was like the scariest thing that I have ever had to deal with, like ever. And I don't know why, because the thing is, like, I was the plaintiff in that case. Like, I was the one filing the lawsuit. It's not like I even got, I wasn't the one like getting sued, but it escalated and it turned into this whole thing. And, and it was very scary. And, I realized the power of forgiveness in that moment, because I think that when you attract something like that into your life, there is a reason. So anytime you go online and anytime you sort of raise your profile and reach a bigger audience, you're going to get a certain amount of hate. It just is what it is. It's just like there's haters out there, and they're gonna, I'm having a bad day. And then I see, oh, Jay Lee, who's that guy? Oh, screw this guy. And I start, but it has nothing to do with you. It's just that I was like looking for something to sort of latch onto, right? And what I realized is that you can, when those people attach themselves to you, it is usually because they've found some kind of energetic foothold. Otherwise, you sort of just don't care. So, like, for example, Jay, if I was like, if I went out there and I said something like, oh, Jay Lee is a serial killer, and I made a blog post about that, right? Like, you wouldn't, like, you're laughing, right? You're almost like you're not offended because it's so ridiculous. It's like if your kid is like, Dad, you're a stupid head, and you're like, yeah. But if I said something that actually affected you emotionally, where your response wasn't to laugh, your response was to be like, dude, what? Because there's something in that resonates with you on some level. Where if I'm like, oh, Jay Lee is an imposter, and that pisses you off, it's because it's some part in your psyche. And it might just be 5% of your psyche, but there's something in your psychology that pushes a button for you. Make sense?
100%.
So back to the power of forgiveness. I believe that fundamentally all forgiveness is self-forgiveness, where what you are saying is that you are just not going to let this thing bother you anymore, whether it is something that somebody else did to you or something that you're kind of hating on yourself for. And the more you can forgive the rest of the people around you, the more you can forgive the world, the more you can forgive yourself. Sometimes people even need to forgive God, man. And that's a hard thing to say. Like when my father passed away, I was very mad at God because it came out of nowhere. And it was like, how did this happen? And I felt abandoned, really. But the more you can forgive yourself, it's like you look at your soul, let's say, and when you have all this guilt that's unresolved, or you have this anger that's unresolved, or you have these resentments that are unresolved, it's like your soul, if we think about it like a cliff, there's all these little dents in it, all these little rivets that any kind of energetic vampire could swoop in and just grab onto and start, feeding off that energy. But the more you forgive, the more your soul becomes like glass, where there's just nothing to grab onto. Because you've resolved all of those things inside of yourself. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to explain.
No, I think that was really well done, well explained. And I think you're right. Like, it's some things that are outrageous. It's like, you don't take offense because it's not doesn't really resonate. But when something hits home where it's a little bit more true, or there's some core trauma or root issues from family origin, that that's when it's like it irks you, right? And it bothers you, or like. Even yesterday when I was coaching soccer, we're 5-0, my daughter's team. And the thing is this, like, there was a kid on the other team that was like heckling and basically jeering like the ref. And basically, when you throw a throw in and it's our ball, they're like, he's pointing the other direction saying it's theirs. And the referee sometimes doesn't see the play. So a lot of the plays that were our ball, he turned it over by making it his, because he was basically lying and telling the ref that maybe she didn't see it, and then it's our ball, their ball, sorry. And I'm just like, Why would you even do that? That irked me, right? And then there's another kid who was dribbling the ball in the field and losing the ball onto the field that was on their team, just, goofing off. Like little things like that, that really, like, this is the disrespect, dishonor, that really bothers me. Other things, not so much. I'm just like, get off the field, hold the ball, don't bounce it around. And the other dude who's even the coach, the head coach, is like, be quiet. He said, shut up and stop, like basically making a fool out of yourself, right?
Yeah.
So those things, the emotion, in Pete Scazzero's Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, he talks about you can never be spiritually mature as a leader when you're emotionally immature, right?
Yeah.
So you can be this leader, you can be this $100 million CEO, but then, when something little happens and we just like take this, temper tantrum, like, I didn't get my lollipop.
Right.
So I think that's another thing is that EQ is like in your team and in your leadership and in whether it's you leading or whether it's people on your team reacting, how do you manage, the character and the emotion and building up the culture?
The most important thing in our culture at Clients on Demand is we bring it down to one question, and that's what is going to get the best outcomes for our clients. And we make every decision from there. So yes, you have to keep an eye on your cash flow and you have to keep an eye on your profitability, but there are so many coaching and consulting companies out there where getting people results is basically an afterthought.
Really?
We saw a huge explosion of this. And this is not like Alex's fault, but when $100 million offers came out, he gave people the roadmap for constructing a really compelling and awesome offer.
Right.
And a lot of people took that and ran with it and, created an offer that was basically too good to be true that they sort of couldn't deliver on. Like, hey, we're going to get you 25 high ticket clients by next Thursday, or we're going to buy you a Lamborghini. And they were like, yeah, that's a super compelling offer. But, did you stop and think like, hey, can we actually do this? Right. And a lot of people just launched these offers and it turned out that they couldn't do it. So we talked to a lot of people, man. We had a guy join our program the other day that I was talking to him and he was like, yeah, man, I dropped $27,000 on this other coaching program and got literally nothing, like nothing. Whoa. So you had a lot of people, and again, it's not Alex's fault. He cracked the code on what makes an offer compelling. But a lot of people rolled out these offers without really thinking about whether or not they could deliver. And so they made these compelling offers, they made sales, they made money, but then they had a lot of upset and angry people because they couldn't actually deliver on what they were promising. And so what that's done is it's contributed to this sort of trust recession that's happening now in the marketplace, where a lot of people are talking about this, that there's just way more skepticism than there ever was before, because people have invested in something and been completely let down. Now, I've invested in good masterminds and programs. I've invested in bad masterminds and programs, but I've only been straight up burned like a couple times. And we're hearing that more and more often, though, that I bought this program and there was no program. I hired these guys to do lead gen on this platform or that platform, and then they took my money and they disappeared. And none of it ever materialized. So we're hearing more and more of that. So at Clients on Demand, we always try to take the high road in our culture and really keep our focus on, we will do whatever we need to do to get amazing outcomes for our clients. And that sucks because it's pretty expensive for me. We have to have Facebook coaches and sales coaches and mindset coaches and all that stuff. So my overhead is higher than normal, but that's what it takes to get great results for people. So everything in the culture is really just about reinforcing what is the mission and why is that mission so important to us? And then making decisions that are in line with that, as opposed to in line with just increasing the cash flow or just increasing the profit.
It's interesting because you say a message that's kind of different from many coaches who are even scaling and very successful, where their model might be to be as lean and bootstrapped, which, is important, but then without investing into the full client delivery and the experience to give them, like you said, the best client delivery possible, which may even affect your profit, which may, cause a payroll to happen if you're hiring coaches to deliver within your program. Many people are not doing that well, at least that I've seen, and I've been a high ticket closer for. But the fact that you're investing into them to help your clients succeed, so that it kind of like debunks the whole trust recession where, you know, we're standing out from the rest. We're outliers, and we actually want to tell you that coaching and mentorship actually works. So what caused you to do that? Because you didn't have to do that, if that makes sense. And I appreciate that you do.
Well, from day one, that was our priority. Like I didn't set out with some grand mission, like, oh yeah, we're going to change the world or whatever. But I was like, we need to do a good job. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to have a steakhouse, you better serve the best steak there is. If you have a donut store, they better be some amazing donuts. Thanks, baby. They better be some amazing donuts. Like if you're going to have a coaching company, the measure of success of your coaching company is not just whether people pay you, it's whether they actually get the result.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? You know, and for me, that was just obvious from day one. I was like, listen, I'm going to orient everything in my company to actually get people where they are trying to go. Even if it costs more money, even if we have to invest more time. Now, I'm still going to try to do it as efficiently and in as lean a way as we possibly can, because that's just good business, right? You don't want to have waste. You want it to be as efficient as possible. But I can't tell you how many offers are put together by people where the actual outcomes their clients are getting is like an afterthought. You know, and I think to be fair, some of that comes from just information marketing where, you know, I think it was like even Tony Robbins that said, hey, and I'm going to get this wrong. But it was something like only 20% of people who bought Personal Power, the original DVD or the original CD, only 20% of the people even opened it, much less listened to it. Wow. So I think this has created this sort of perception in the industry where, like, going all the way back to the early 80s, right? Where it's like, I'm going to put something out there and I'm going to put good information out there. What you do with it is up to you. And I take no responsibility. I think when it comes to high ticket coaching, it's not that, because it's not information, it's transformation. Like, it is my responsibility to do everything I possibly can to get you an incredible outcome. Now, it's a two-way street. It's always going to be a two-way street. You got to hold up your side of the street. You have to show up. You have to do the work. You have to be coachable. But I'm going to hold up my side of the street better than anybody else in this industry, where we have the best strategy, the clearest training, the best support, and we lead with heart. And that's what it takes to get people great outcomes. And I think that's why we are still in business today, where a lot of our competitors have gone out of business or gotten shut down or whatever it might be.
Very interesting. So for those of you guys who are tuning in, Russ Ruffino has closed over $100 million in his coaching business and has generated over $1 billion in results using his system. That's not a small feat in itself. So congrats on that. And like you said, I think the stat was that people who join programs, only 20% of them actually ever complete the courses. So there's a large portion where people are collecting digital dust assets, not really using the memberships, the school communities, the courses that they're in. And you said that high ticket coaching is transformational versus information. You mentioned something about, you know, the heart, the support, the training, the strategy, accountability. I want to touch on accountability, because when I look at success of like Olympic gold medalists, I think accountability, in addition to their work ethic and the training and all the things that you mentioned, strategy, support, that heart, that hunger, is all important. How do you guys stand above the rest, where you're giving them the client delivery? You have coaches that you're investing in to provide the accountability. Is it like, hey, you show up, we'll show up for you? Or do you actually like pull on them, whether it's reminders or, you know, texts or emails? How do you guys do that?
So a big function of this is the high ticket price. So when you are, I'll give you an example. When I was younger, I bought a membership to, I want to say it was 24 Hour Fitness or LA Fitness or one of those gyms in my house. It was like $20 a month, right? So I didn't really care if I actually went to the gym or didn't. And when I actually wanted to get in shape, I went out there and I hired a trainer who was $5,000. When I hired that guy, I did everything he told me to do. Okay. So a big part of it is, if you're only charging $27 for an ebook or something, you're going to get $27 worth of commitment from your audience. And that's just human nature. Like, you literally value things more that cost more, right? And it seems obvious, but we don't really think about that. If I'm investing $10,000 to work with Jay, I'm going to do everything you tell me to do.
Right.
So by commanding a premium price, you know, I always tell people, if you're working with clients and you're frustrated because they're not doing what you tell them to do, and they're not getting the result, and they're kind of just dipping their toes in the water, you need to raise your prices, because then you're going to attract more committed people who will actually show up and do the thing. So just the fact that we're commanding a premium price for our work, it actually fixes a lot of that problem. Because when people make the decision to join at 5K or 8K or 10K or whatever your price is, they're really having to think about that decision, and they're actually taking a leap of faith that they're going to show up and do the work, and they're going to put their future in your hands. Now that's great, because now they're going to do everything that you tell them to do. And if your stuff is good, they're going to get the result, and that's going to make you look like a rock star, and you're going to get to go to sleep every night thinking about all the wonderful things that you've done in these people's lives. And that's the way that I think it is supposed to be. So charging a premium price is a big part of it. Another big part of it is to make your programs step by step, so that people can follow along. You don't give them the whole solution on day one, because then they get overwhelmed. So it's never just this big grab bag of information that people have to navigate. It's like, nah, man, here's the first thing you're going to do. And then here's the second thing you're going to do. And then you guide them and you support them and you answer their questions every step of the way. So your programs should be designed in like a follow along structure. And then the other thing you need to do is you obviously need great strategic support, meaning that if somebody has a question about strategy, your team is there for them. But you also need mindset support. And that's something I resisted for a really long time, because I thought, hey, man, I give people the best strategy, they're going to execute, it's going to be great. But what we found is that what really held people up is their own fear and their own doubt and their own tendency to self-sabotage. You know, and they could come from that can come from anywhere. It could come from your childhood conditioning. It could come from, you know, there are people that you know, believe that God does not want you to be rich and successful. So that's going to be a big problem if you're trying to become rich and successful. You're going to have to resolve that in some way and come to the belief that no, it's okay for me to be rich and successful as long as I'm delivering value and I'm not, you know, I don't know, selling drugs or something. As long as, you know, so you know, there is a lot of inner conflict. We've had 6,000 clients go through the program over the years, and every single one of them had limiting beliefs that we needed to deprogram and unravel and optimize. Carl Jung said, until you learn to make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So what that means is that a lot of these limiting beliefs that are holding you back, you're not even consciously aware of them. There's something that you're brought up from when you were 3, when you were 4, when you were 5, and you're carrying that around in your mind. You know, maybe you saw your parents fight about money a lot, or your dad was always like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, you know, or your dad was like, oh, that Mr. Jones up the street driving around with his Mercedes, you know, forget that guy. You know, you carry these things around and you don't even realize that they're there until you start to make some money. And all of a sudden you don't feel joy. You don't feel pride. You just feel fear and anxiety. The more money you make, the more anxious you get. That's because you're bumping up against something in your belief system that is in conflict with where you're trying to go. And so we invest a lot of energy with our clients figuring out where those sort of like subconscious landmines are and helping our clients defuse them and replace them with beliefs that are actually going to support their success.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's it. Like, you know, even yesterday when I was coaching my soccer team, we were against the top team. They blew out the other team last week 5-0, and they didn't even have their top 2 players. They had them yesterday. So I'm like, I knew as a coach, I said, we're in trouble, but I didn't want to feed them with like, hey, we're going to lose, or they're going to beat us. Or I did like remember the Titans when they're in the locker room. I said, this is your moment. This is your stadium. And they're like 10 to 12 years old. Right. And the coaches and the adults are like, who are you? Right. This is your moment. When you're ready to give up, you push past your quit. When you're ready to give up, you give a little bit more. When you're ready to give up, you know, and someone steals a ball from you, that's your baby. You're not going to let them walk away with your baby, are you? You're going to go back and you're going to steal that baby back because it's yours. And then my student leaders, the coaches, they were laughing because they were like,
"That's so funny," because the kids have no idea what that's from.
Yeah,
man, go through like all like remember the Titans, like just go through like every movie and just write down like all the inspiring.
Oh yeah, and every shift that we had, they were feeling like deflated. Some of them were not showing up. They were not present. Some of them were just like, you know, giving up. I'm like, this is your moment. The winning happens here first. Your body's saying giving up. You got to tell your mind to tell your body to shut up and tell your body to get back to work. and we ended up winning. And we just squeaked a 2-1 win, which was a close game. But you're right. I think the subconscious landmines is like, we have these preconceived notions or a belief system that must shift, because we think that there's these giants, there's the Amalekites, there's these, people that are 9 feet tall, and when they come in, they're going to destroy us. And then, like you look at David and Goliath, he says, I come in the name of the Lord. He takes his, 5 rocks in his sling. He just needs one, and he's running towards the battle. He's running towards a giant. And here's the faith and Bible analogy. Like everyone else is running away. They're in the camp saying, you're here to bring our Subway lunch. Go back, fool, to your shepherding. And he's like, no. I come in the name of the Lord. And he's running towards Goliath, and Goliath's like, fee, fi, fo, fum. Look at this little bum. I'm gonna just squash him, right? And then one, by faith in the Lord and running in the direction and God's will, boom, one shot, lands him down, gets his long sword, takes his head off, and carrying that head, saying like, size doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? Faith does. And so mindset is really important. Like you said, Carl Jung, until you make this unconscious become conscious. So I love that you're doing that. Any thoughts on that?
I just think it's essential. Like, so many people don't understand that what you experience as your life is just the outpicturing of what you deeply think and feel and believe. And a lot of people associate that as like sort of a new age idea, but Jesus said over and over again, according to your faith, it is done unto you.
Yes.
Whoever asks for a thing, believing he hath received it, it shall be done unto him. If you look at the tenses in that statement, it's very important. Whoever asks for something, believing he hath received it, like he's already got it, then it shall be done unto him. So you believe in advance, you're grateful in advance that you are going to receive these things as if you already had them. And that's when they come into your life. And that seems like a pretty new agey law of attraction thing, but Jesus literally said it over and over again. And I think a lot of people don't take him at his word. If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, get up from here and go over there. Like, did he mean that? Was he BSing us? I don't think so. Right? I mean, he said it, and he said it over and over again, the power of active faith. And so I think that, taking control of and optimizing your belief system is key. You are not going to succeed if you fundamentally believe that God does not want you to succeed. You are not going to succeed. And when you do succeed, if by some miracle you do succeed, you're going to get rid of that money and that success as fast as you possibly can. So you have to have a belief system that is aligned with what it is that you are trying to do. But I believe that if you have these righteous desires in your heart to serve humanity in a bigger and more powerful and more wonderful way, those didn't come from you. That's the voice of God whispering in your ear, showing you this vision of what you could be. And the only question is, are you going to have enough active faith to go out there and pursue that thing and believe that if you take that leap of faith, that God's going to catch you? And that's what we try to really instill in our clients. And we don't do it from like a, religious perspective. It doesn't matter whether someone's Christian or Jewish or Muslim or whatever. We've had clients of all different faiths. But at the end of the day, regardless of what you believe religiously, that law, that truth, that it is done unto you according to your beliefs, is always active and always operative for everybody, whether you're Christian or atheist or whatever. It's universal. So we cannot lead people into success unless they have beliefs that are congruent with being successful.
And that drives us to the faith, purpose, and kingdom-driven businesses. Like, I grew up, when I was pastoring, and even like as an immigrant family where, we grew up struggling, and my parents have been very successful, and they have faith, and they love the Lord, and I love them. Amazing. They're just incredible parents. The thing was, like, growing up, it was like we didn't have much, and it was like it seemed unattainable, unreachable because of how far set back we were from being immigrants. And then my parents worked, their tails off to be able to get to where they are today. And then when I went to pastoral ministry, I had people, pastors, friends, family saying, you can't own this, you can't, make this kind of money, you can't, drive these kinds of cars. So I would literally, take these used cars. It was a Camry, and I sold it for $15K, and I got 2 rust bucket beaters because of optics.
Right.
And people say, you know, in church and faith sometimes, and not everyone, this is just, but you know, God and money. So I want to ask you, because you said according to your faith it shall be done to you, and you said you're not going to be able to succeed if you don't think that God wants you to succeed and be rich. But there's this also other mantra and culture in even the Christian faith where, you know, that whole thing is mistaken and taken out of context. It's the love of money is the root of all evil, not money in itself. Can you address that, because you've been able to achieve success more than, you know, the top 1% have been able to achieve in their whole life, and you're a person of faith? How do you talk to someone who's like, well, you can't own that, you can't be successful, you can't, all these can'ts?
Well, how does it serve humanity for you to play small? How does it serve God for you to play small? You know, what is it? You know, don't hide your light under a lampshade.
Yeah.
Right. Can't get the exact quote, but you know the part I'm talking about, right?
Close. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It's like don't hide the light under a lampshade, but let it shine. You know, and by playing small, I think that a lot of people devalue what they could be doing and discount what they could be doing, and they use the scriptures to justify their own fear. They're afraid of what would happen if they put themselves out there, or they're afraid of what would happen if they gave the gifts to the world that they were born to give to the world.
Wow.
And so they justify that by saying, well, I'm humble, I'm just being humble, and this and that. And it's like, okay, cool, but you know, you could be doing something better. You know, and I think that I really do believe that the desires of your heart come from God. I'm not talking about like, oh, dude, I really wanted to cheat on my wife the other day, so God wants me to cheat on my wife. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your desires to serve the world in a bigger and more powerful way, to have that expansive vision of like, what can I do? What can I do to move the ball forward? What can I do to move humanity forward? You know, I know a lot of people hate on Elon Musk, but I mean, dude, that guy gets up every single day asking that question. What can I do to, you know, make cars electric? What can I do to get us to Mars? What can I do to do these things? Like, how can, I've only got one life to live. I'm prepared to give everything I've got, even to the point of going bankrupt, which he almost did quite a few times. Sleeping on his friends' couches and borrowing money from people and stuff. Like, I don't care what happens to me. All I care about is what I was put here to do. And I think that is the way that God wants us to operate. And maybe that for you is, I want to have the best donuts in town. And I love making donuts, and that's my thing, and that's my calling, and that's what lights me up inside. So I'm going to have this incredible donut store, and I'm going to use that to make people happy. It's a great, God bless. That's awesome. You know, or maybe it's you're going to have a coaching company, or maybe it's you're going to be an astronaut, or maybe you're going to be the world's best soccer coach and change these kids' lives by quoting, you know, an Al Pacino speech from a football movie that changes their life. You know, like, but whatever it is, whatever that prompting is that you are feeling, it doesn't serve God, it doesn't serve the world, and it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve anybody by you playing small. It just doesn't. So you can justify that however you want, but I think if you really are honest with yourself and you look in the mirror, what you're really talking about is fear and unworthiness and self-doubt. And you can wrap it in a nice little wrapper of saying, well, I'm just being a humble Christian. But if you really boil it down to its essence, you're just afraid. And it's like, again, don't put your light under a lampshade. Put yourself out there. Be like the guy, you know, the guy with the 10 talents. Like one guy took his talent. And it's so funny that it's the same word that we use, right? It's talents is like the money, but then you talk about, oh, I'm talented or I have talents. Don't take those talents and bury them in the ground. Put it out there and multiply it. That's what we're called to do. You know, and I mean, and Jesus says it in different ways, but he says it over and over and over again. And it's just so obvious. Like, why, what does it benefit us by coming here and playing small?
Well said. Wow, I am blown away. This is amazing. So I have one last question, and we're going to do a lightning round to respect your time. So future vision and industry trends. So, you know, with AI and technology, and some people say, you know, high ticket coaching is saturated and there's a cycle, and a lot of people that have been very successful have moved on to SaaS or other kinds of pivots. And what's the next chapter for clients on demand with everything that you've accomplished? What's next for clients on demand? Where's the company going in the future? And how do you make or plan to make an even bigger impact on your clients and their businesses?
I think people are always going to need mentors and advisors to help them create the things that they want to create. That's been going on since the beginning of time, and I don't think that's going anywhere.
Yeah.
You can get information from an AI. So I think information is going to become less valuable, but I think real transformation is going to become even more valuable because the more bombarded we are every day with information, the harder it is to actually get the signal from the noise, separate out the signals from the noise, and do the thing that you actually wanted to do. So I think now is the time to build a personal brand. I think now is the time to build your authority. I think that it is going to get much more difficult to cut through the noise as the years go by, and there's this huge proliferation of AI content. And I think that for the next 3 to 5 years, people are really going to be looking for transformational leaders that they can believe in and get behind. And so now is the time. Now is the time to put yourself out there in a real and powerful way. I also think that the line between paid and organic is disappearing. Where it used to be that you run paid ads and those paid ads go into a funnel.
Yeah.
Now I think it's becoming pretty clear that you can still do that, but that's now got to be surrounded by an entire ecosystem of content. It doesn't have to be like posting to Instagram 16 times a day. I'm not talking about a ton of volume. I'm talking about some hard hitting stuff that people can binge that really shows them who you are and then gets them into your process and makes them say, yes, I want to work with you.
Amazing. So let's do our lightning round. As you know, getting to know Russ as we enter into our last minute in the Sales Ninja Show podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you are a multi-6 or 7+ figure entrepreneur, comment podcast to apply to be on the show. We're booked out for 3 or 4 months, so this is a good problem, and we want to get more of you sharing your stories and transformations. So lightning round, getting to know Russ Ruffino. So your morning go-to routine, what does that look like to be and set yourself up for a successful day?
I wake up in the morning, I take some methylene blue and I take some NAD plus for energy. And then I sit down and I do like uninterrupted journaling for 20 minutes, just get my thoughts on paper. And then I take a shower and I practice gratitude, doing what I just talked about, Jay, which is being grateful in advance for the things that I want. And then I start my day.
Amazing. A book that changed your perspective. Can you recommend a book that radically changed the way you view business or life? And why does it hold so much significance for you?
I just did a whole YouTube video about this where I talked about the top 20 books that changed my life. So I have 1,000 books on my Kindle. So I picked the top 20 and I tried to rank them, even though that was pretty tough.
Yeah.
But I would say I'll just recommend one. And if you guys want to hear more, you can check out the video on my YouTube channel. But the one that comes to mind first and foremost is this book called Letting Go by David R. Hawkins. And what he does in that book is basically gives you a very simple technique and a very simple roadmap for dealing with your negative emotions. Because most of the time when we feel something negative, jealousy, anger, grief, hate, we either, repress it or we grab our phones and we try to distract ourselves because we don't want to feel this or that. He shows you how to engage with those emotions in a way that allows that feeling to sort of flow through you instead of getting stuck. And it's one of the best books you'll ever read.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. David, did you say R?
David R. Hawkins. David R. Hawkins.
R. Hawkins. Okay, awesome.
Called Letting Go. Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, your greatest non-business accomplishment, you've achieved so much professionally, but what would you say is your greatest personal achievement or proudest moment outside of business?
My kids. I have 4 amazing kids. I have like a super awesome wife who's just incredible. And, they're just amazing. And I'm like, my family life is the happiest family life that I know. It's great.
Amazing. And what does your family enjoy doing the most together?
Beating each other up mostly.
Your wife too?
Yeah, we like to travel. That's probably our favorite thing. So even when I'm working and we kind of can't plan a big trip because I'm running the company and I just have like a lot of stuff to juggle, even on the weekends, we'll still take a day trip to Santa Barbara, take a day trip to Palm Springs, whatever happens to be around us. There's a lot to do in Southern California. So we like to travel a lot.
Okay. And last question is one piece of advice for new entrepreneurs. We talked about this where, people are not clear or confident, or they're getting in their own way with self-sabotage. If you could give one piece of advice to an entrepreneur just starting out today, what would it be?
Invest in a mentor with a track record. Like I know that might sound self-serving, but don't invest in the person who's making the wild claims. Don't invest in the person that's done amazing things themselves. Invest in the person that's done amazing things, but has transferred that skill successfully to other people. That's one of the biggest challenges, man. Like I've joined masterminds where the guy running the mastermind was an off the charts genius, but he just couldn't sprinkle that magic to anyone else. Like he could just do it, but he couldn't teach you how to do it.
Right.
The only way to find a program that's worth doing is to look at the guy, see, do I resonate with this guy or this gal? And do they have a really long, unbroken track record of success? And go in. That's the biggest shortcut you can find, and spend what it takes to learn from that person. Otherwise, it's just trial and error.
Well said. So you guys got that at the very end. Russ Ruffino, his last words: invest in a mentor with a long and unbroken track record of success. And we talked a lot about faith of a mustard seed, and even mindset that actually is a winning mindset, and having that purpose. So thank you so much again, Russ, for your precious time and the amazing gold nuggets that you dropped, and the truth bombs with the shifts and the trends, and even your own journey and your story. Would love to have you, and maybe if your wife's open to it, that would be a special podcast episode to see how things are running from the home front.
Oh, that's a good idea. Well, let's do that. That would be super.
Has your wife ever been on a podcast?
I don't think she has. No,
There
but
you
I
go.
think that would be really cool. Like for us to just sit
both
down
of
and
you
talk
in the
about
room and have a mic, and we'd do like a fireside chat.
It's a good idea.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in, and don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, and to give us a review if you like the podcast. And again, Russ Ruffino, class act, man of faith, incredibly successful, but heart-centered. So thank you again, once again, for your time. Until next time, we will see you guys on the next show. Take care for now.
Thanks, Jay.